Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Bruce Boudreau coming up this hour. We've got a list that I will reveal, Hazy B's list, a little bit later on as well. And we're just talking about the Blue Jays and their possible pursuit of Pete Alonso. They were also possibly pursuing Jurickson Profar. That pursuit has come to an end because he's signed with the Atlanta Braves. So Alex Anthopoulos decided to get that one done. So Profar is...
You know what? One guy letting one guy go that kind of bugs me, and I just think about randomly. It's like, why did Teoscar Hernandez need it? Like, was he let go? He was traded to, like, Seattle for some dude
Swanson,
that was...
Yeah, Swanson. It was awful last year, Samsonite.
Like, why did that guy need to go out the door? It was like that click at the end of the dugout had to be shaken up. I don't know.
That's what it was.
It was a reset of the culture.
Yes, they bought into John Schneider's here, and it's different now, and you got to be serious. And there's Don Mattingly, and he's, he doesn't like that kind of stuff. And
okay, that's fine and everything, but how did that work out for everybody? Gurriel played pretty good in Arizona.
Yeah. No, listen, Teoscar Hernandez has been a revelation in L.A. He's won a World Series.
Yeah.
He went back. They signed him. They gave him more money. The guy hits for power. He hits in the middle of the lineup for the Dodgers.
And he probably could have had on a reasonable deal in Toronto.
Never wanted to leave Toronto.
No, here's an extension. Any interest? But it was just like, no, we got to terminate the end of that dugout with guys dancing with Vladdy. I don't know. It was that whole clique at the end of the dugout had to be shaken up.
Yep. Too much fun. You can't have fun playing, dog. You can't have too much fun.
Yep.
I get it. Maybe tell them to kind of be a little bit more serious, but to get rid of everybody down there, that was a little bit much.
Well, and again, they were looking at, obviously, the way those players were interacting with each other and maybe their approach to the sport or what have you, but in doing so, they looked past something very blunt and basic and important. They hit for power. Like Teoscar Hernandez hit a lot of home runs. And yes, he is a hot and cold power hitter, like basically everyone is in baseball. But when he got hot, and Gurriel was the biggest example of that. And I think that was part of why they didn't trust him. And they had to throw him into the deal for whatever reason to get Varsho.
I didn't mind giving that guy a little bit more time, though. I kind of liked him. He wasn't consistent, but I didn't mind him out there.
Well, yeah, listen, again, he is a classic hot and or cold hitter, Gurriel. Like Gurriel would have stretches where he'd have a 30-game stretch and he'd look like an all-star, and he'd have a 950 OPS and hit for power. And then the next 30, he'd look like a replacement player.
Right.
And, that's just the nature of the beast. But, yeah, I mean, listen, there's a number of guys that they decided to either move off of or not sign. Like even Marcus Semien, when he had that unbelievable season for them, and it was a one-off, and he didn't get paid in Oakland. They took advantage of it. Very shrewd signing, very smart play. 1-year deal, a prove-it deal. But then the Rangers came in and said, well, you just proved it, so we will pay you that money. And then he goes and wins a World Series down there.
Yeah.
And, that guy hit 40 home runs as a second baseman. Can't pay him. Can't pay him. Teoscar's got to go. Got to move. And, yeah, I mean, that's another one where Semien got paid a lot of money. It was uncomfortable. I understand that, but that's just the price of doing business in baseball right now. Got to pay guys a lot of money, and you just hope they stay healthy and hope they continue to repay you.
Well,
and ultimately in Texas, I would say they're pretty happy about Corey Seager being paid that kind of money and Marcus Semien. And
I mean, look at what the Dodgers are spending. I mean, it's outrageous how much they're spending. The Mets just spent nearly $1 billion this offseason. Like, that's the game. It's a no-salary cap sport.
Right.
You want to be a player, you got to spend money. And guess what? They're making plenty of money down at the Dome.
So do you think other owners like the Pittsburgh Pirates are just in a situation where they don't have that kind of bank or they don't want to spend that kind of bank? What is it? Because if you're the Reds, the Pirates, I mean, you can go through
They don't have the same amount of money. Clearly. I mean, the Dodgers.
But how on earth are they supposed to compete? Like, I don't think this Dodger stuff's going to end anytime soon.
You need a great farm system is what you need. I mean, ultimately, you need to do what Tampa's done because the Rays have been that for a long, long time. They never spend any money.
Yeah, but you've seen with small markets, Brian, in years past, the farm system's great, but then when you develop a superstar, like how long do you think Skeens is going to stay with the Pirates?
Well,
because sooner or later he's going to go to them and say, "You're giving me $400 million," and they're going to be like, "Excuse me."
Absolutely. He's not. I can't imagine he spends a day beyond team control in Pittsburgh. But they don't have to make that decision right now. They have him under control for another 5 years, I believe. So they're not going to pay him more than they have to. Like someone asking us that recently, have you talked to them about a long-term deal? And he said, I haven't heard from them. Of course not. They're not paying you anything.
No, why
and they're
would
Pittsburgh. They're not going to pay you anything right now.
They'll never make the big money.
They're never going to. It's never going to happen. Speaking of big money, you got Bruce Boudreau on the line.
Yeah, he made some serious bank coaching, man.
Serious bank. Here he is joining us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. How you doing, Bruce?
Hey, I'm doing fine. But my first job was $29,000 and a free trip. So don't tell me about money.
Where was the trip to, though, Brucey? That's a big factor.
Well, it was the guy owned a travel agency, so we chose Hawaii over the Bahamas, and it was a good trip. But I had to live in Muskegon, Michigan for a year too, so that goes against it.
Everything balances out. I like that. Hawaii. You can't take a free trip to like New York, man. If it's free, you got to go to Hawaii or something. You got to take a long trip, right? You have to.
I just looked as far as they could go, and Hawaii was the furthest. So that's where we went.
That's right. You're a businessman. I love it. So I saw you earlier, and we were discussing, what Auston Matthews had to say after the game. And what I find interesting about this topic is it's making heads explode in Leaf Nation, because on one side, Leaf fans hate how quiet Scotiabank Arena is. They hate that. But on the other side, they kind of hate how guys like Matthews and Marner and Nylander never hold each other accountable, and don't win and aren't really, rah-rah in terms of yelling and screaming at each other to make sure that they step up when they're supposed to step up. So, worlds are colliding, and people aren't quite certain how they should react to this. What did you make of his commentary post-game last night? What kind of message do you think he was trying to get across?
Well, I think he was trying to be a captain and deflect the loss and blame it on something else. And what are we talking about today? We're not talking about Columbus beating them 5-1. We're talking about the crowd noise. And that's nothing's changed there. But I will say this. I firmly believe that the next home game, I think it's a Wednesday night of next Wednesday, even if it is against Minnesota, which isn't the most exciting team in the world, if Kaprizov's not playing, will be very loud at the beginning of the game. I guess it depends on how they play to see if they stay that loud, but I think they'll be very loud, and the crowd will show that we're behind you. And I just thought it was a leadership thing, and it was the first time I'd heard Auston actually be negative towards anything. So I think it was fine. I'm okay with it. You wouldn't want him to go off and say things like that every night, but I think once it's January and it's the first thing he said, so I don't have a problem.
Yeah, and it's exactly. It's not like it was overly harsh either. Like he said, he would have liked to have seen a little bit. He wasn't criticizing anyone individually, and it was a fight 90 seconds in. It's tough. A lot of people weren't in the crowds yet or in their seats yet. But Austin's on fire, man. Even in that 5-1 loss, Bruce, he's scored 9 goals in his last 10 games. He's up to 20 on the season. What do you think William Nylander's got 28? Do you think he can catch Willie between now and the end of the year? And if so, how quickly could he do that?
Well, 8 goals. If you were talking me, then 8 goals, he'd catch it in a heartbeat. But William Nylander is going to get 40, 45 goals maybe this year. That means Austin would have to have quite a second half, I think, and I don't know if he's going to catch it. Look at William Nylander had 3 breakaways I saw last night. He's got more breakaways than any other player in the NHL. He's going to get his goals. But Auston Matthews is just simply the best scorer in the National Hockey League. He got 69 last year. He's gonna get his goals. But I think, and if both of them are scoring at the rate they've been going, I think the Leafs will win a lot more games in the last half of the season.
Brucey, what's the key to getting a lot of breakaways? Is it simply anticipation, just sniffing out when the puck's going to be going the other way? I think in William Nylander's case, you don't watch it a lot and be like, oh, he's just floating or he's cheating. Back in the day, watching Kovalchuk or Pavel Bure, they would literally stand at the far blue line. He's not doing that.
Well, no, that's not the case with him. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons he's getting a lot of breakaways is because so many people block shots now. And when a defenseman shoots the puck and he doesn't block it, he just keeps going and it's blocked and he's wide open up the middle more often than not. Ovi used to do that an awful lot. When the year he scored 65, he'd go out to the point. If it wasn't blocked, he would keep going and get breakaway passes all night long. Now, watching last night's game, they did a little thing on this, on his breakaways, and his anticipation is great. I mean, and he's got that first step that he can get beyond the defenseman. But no, he's not Pavel Buring. He's not Alex McGillney. He's not any of these guys, even in the past when they would come back so slow, hoping that the Leaf guys, they're not taking anything away from Sheldon, but I mean, this is how he coached, is that he would always have one guy hanging high at least, and a lot of time it was Nylander. But I mean, they come back hard through the middle, but they anticipate so well, and the Leaf defense is really doesn't get the credit because they don't score, but they got some pretty good outlet passers on that defense, and they can hit them with those one-timers, and consequently Nylander gets an awful lot of chances to score.
Bruce, we were having a conversation about the way the Leafs are handling Joseph Woll this year. He doesn't play last night, even though it wasn't a back-to-back situation. Hildeby goes in there, and he gets drilled a little bit, and he's back in the minors now. But what do you make of the way the game has changed when it comes to handling goaltenders? It's only a few guys got over 60 starts last year. When you were coaching the league, less than 20 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to have guys getting 70 plus. And now, here's a guy, Joseph Woll, who may get 40, and the Leafs are worried about it. I mean, how do you see it?
Well, it's a first-time thing for Joseph Woll, too, I mean, to play that many games. But, I mean, I think the fear isn't in how many games he's playing. The fear is, quite frankly, at how many goalies get hurt. And so you have to be able to worry about this. I mean, I don't think the Leafs have a great number 3 right now. And they've already got Stolarz out. I mean, there wouldn't have been... there was no reason for Woll not to play yesterday other than resting him, especially when they sent Hildeby back to the minors today. And, but I think it's more of a, they want to make sure that they're rested and ready to go come playoff time, because you're right. There's no Martin Brodeurs that's going to play 70 games. The closest guy, I think, is Hellebuyck, and I think in the second half, you're going to find him not playing as much, especially if he plays 4 games in the Four Nations to go along with everything else he's done. I think you'll find him taking a rest as soon as they can get Comrie a win. They don't seem to be able to get him a win when he goes in the net. So it's a little dicey, but 3 goalies, that third goalie usually isn't the best goalie in the world. And it's unless you were Vancouver and were lucky enough to pick up Kevin Lankinen, who's become a godsend for them. But, I mean, you don't see it going around the league too much.
Speaking of Vancouver, they're in Edmonton tonight. Obviously, first time since the weekend when McDavid and Garland got into it. McDavid suspended, Tyler Myers and Bouchard got into it. Myers suspended, so McDavid and Myers won't be in the lineup tonight, but Garland will be, and it's in Edmonton. Do you expect fireworks tonight? What are you anticipating in this game?
Okay, so you think the Edmonton Oilers are going to sit there and say, we're going to get that 5'7", 155-pound Conor Garland tonight. We're going to eat him up because he was holding.
He was holding.
Man.
He was holding.
He was holding. It's bad enough if you get hit really hard, you got to fight a guy. If you have to fight a guy and go after guys that are holding, I think the league is in trouble. What's next? The coach is going at it for too many men on the ice? I don't know. I just don't think. I don't think that is the importance of tonight. Each team needs the 2 points, and if Conor Garland's a pretty tough guy to hit because he's a little whirling dervish and he's really good at it. But if they get a chance to hit him, they're going to hit him. I think the worst thing that's going to happen is if he goes by the bench, there's a good chance Corey Perry's going to squirt water on him as he's going by.
Yeah.
Because Corey's that kind of guy. But I think both Vancouver needs this win. Edmonton's lost 2 in a row. I think the focus is on winning and not the fact that, he held Connor McDavid and Connor McDavid cross-checked him in the face to get 3 games.
Well, the other side of the, continent is going to see Ottawa play Boston tonight, Bruce. And Brady Tkachuk has not had a point in 8 games. Pointless in 8 games. Boston got pumped by Jersey last night. The night before, Ottawa got pumped by the Rangers. So you'd think both teams would be ornery. Both teams know where they stand in terms of the playoff pursuit. 2 wildcard spots are up for grabs. No one is grabbing it right now. Yet Ottawa could get in, Boston could get in, Montreal could get in, maybe the Rangers, they're red hot. Like there's a real race going on. But how much pressure do you believe is on Brady Tkachuk to A, get on the game sheet tonight, but B, play well and Ottawa get a win?
Well, I think there's, again, more pressure on getting the win. And if Brady Tkachuk plays really well and scores a goal or gets a couple points, I think they'll forget about the 8-game pointless thing. I mean, every game is a new day. Every new day is a new game. And I think we can't worry about what he hasn't done. We all know he's a really good hockey player. We all know that, he's a really physical hockey player. But, to me, Ottawa's got to focus on putting a string together. One of these teams, whether it's Boston, whether it's Ottawa, whether it's, go far as Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Detroit, these guys, now that they're all pretty well even, now's the time they got to put a 6 and 7 game win streak together. Because all the streaks that have happened so far have been to get even. But that's the thing about having a cushion. Now they got to put a streak to get above 500 to get into the playoff spot. So I think, again, Ottawa needs Brady Tkachuk to score if they want to win consistently. I think he worries about it internally, but I don't think there's going to be a big focus on let's get Brady the puck to score. I think it's more the focus on to win. In both cases, Boston's got to win. They just got humbled the other day by Jersey, I think, and Ottawa's, right there. So it's an important game for both, and I don't think individual stuff is going to be the thing that matters.
Hey, Bruce, we were talking about Matthews suggesting the crowd could have been a little louder after the Reeves fight last night. But the point Hayes was making off the top of the show was it was 90 seconds into the game, and people hadn't even taken their seats really in a lot of cases. When you were a coach and you had a guy who was, a heavyweight or a guy who wasn't against fighting, would you ever sort of maybe suggest maybe he pick his spots in a certain way? Because that didn't seem to me like the best spot to really motivate a team or rev up a crowd in such an early portion of the game. Or how did you see that as a coach?
Well, I thought, first of all, it was too early for both of those guys to be on the ice.
Yeah.
90 seconds as fourth liners, so I kind of believe that the coaches might have wanted that to happen. Both are tough guys. Dean Evison was a tough dude for his size, and they both like fighting, but, I thought it was a little early to get involved, but you knew since Ryan hadn't been into a fight all year, and Matthew has fought everybody that's come his way, that it was going to be just a matter of time before they did it last night. But I just thought it was really early for usually the fourth line is on about the 4 or 5 minute mark of the first period, and to be on at the 90-second mark is it almost looks like, I think we want to get something going here. And I think it worked for Columbus. I think Columbus got their guys got all lifted behind it more than, for whatever reason, the Toronto guys did.
It's an interesting point, yeah. Go ahead,
Brucey, how much are coaches, and we're starting to get the trade bait lists coming out, and who should the Leafs get? When you were coaching, how much were you a part of those discussions about possible centermen coming into the fold? Or, if any, is it just a general manager thing? You've got to be in the loop, don't you?
Well, I think if you're a good GM, you keep the coach in the loop.
Is there something? Is there a story you want to tell, Brucey?
No, but does it not make common sense to keep the coach? in the loop. Like, what do you need? Like, I mean, if you're going to be successful, what do you need? Now, I may not be able to go get it for you, but I'm going to go try. And, for example, when George McPhee asked me that the one year, I said, we really do need a second-line center. And he went out and he got Sergei Fedorov. And I remember the minute he got him, he came back in. He said, is he good enough for you? And I said, yeah, he'll do. You know, and at the same time, Chuck Fletcher did the same thing. He said, what do you guys think? And we were in first overall, tied with Washington at the time. And what do you think you need to put you over the top? And I said, well, I think we need another center. And, I mean, right at that point in time, we didn't have a fourth-line center. It was always a minor league guy that was being called up. And he went and got Martin Handel. Now, it didn't work, but it tried. And that's the big thing. I mean, I've had other GMs that they phoned me up and said, we've made a trade. You just lost your best player. Deal with it. And so, I mean, it's who you are. But, I mean, it's who you have as your GM and the communication between him and the coach, I think, is vital. And when you got the GM's ear, then, you know, that's really good. Like I said, he might not go out and be able to get the guy you want or even think that that's the right thing. But it's important that they communicate to want to know, what do you think the coach or the coaching staff in general needs to put this team either into the playoffs or over the top. And if you don't have that communication, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah, that does seem strange that, like, especially if the GM hired the coach and you're all on the same page. You know, it's one thing, I guess, if there's some sort of ugliness between the two for whatever reason or things are going south. I don't know. Even that I'm not sure I can explain. But we hear it all the time from coaches, from GMs, like, we're on the same page. We have a great relationship. We talk all the time. Like, they'll express that publicly as if, like, the opposite happens all the time. Like, that's something you actually need to proclaim to people, that we actually talk to each other. Like, shouldn't that be routine? I mean, that's the way every other business is supposed to work.
You would think it would be routine.
Yes.
And you would think that makes common sense. But I will say that not one time in the 4.5 years in Anaheim did they ask me what we needed. They just went out and got it. And got what they thought that we needed.
Wow. There you go. Well, you should have been in Hawaii at that point, Bruce. That's where you should have been.
We had a real good team.
Yep.
We had a real good team, so it wasn't a big problem, except we never won the Cup, even though, you know, we went to 7 games against Cup winners a couple times. But, I mean, some guys do it on their own with the scouts, and some guys have everybody involved.
Well, Bruce, it's always great catching up with you. We appreciate you doing this, and I'm sure we'll do it again real soon.
I hope so. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
You got it. Bruce Boudreau. You too. Bruce Boudreau joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Count on Maple Toyota for the right winter tire package for your Toyota. Trade in your old tires, buy a new set, and get $40 back. Visit mapletoyota.com. I'd
be very specific if I was a coach. Not like, what do you need? It's like, I want that guy.
Right, exactly. And listen, It's not, and then it's on the GM to talk you through why maybe that can't happen or what the price is. And
obviously, yes. You know. But if you're going to say, I want this or that, I'm specific on the preference.
Well, there are some guys who are very thinking of coaches who've been here in the past. I mean, Babcock was famous for wanting to be the GM and the coach, right? Of heading into the front office and telling the front office how they should be doing their job.
Yeah. I don't think he was shy when it came to what he was looking for.
No. There was a right way to do things, and Mike knew it.
Yeah. What was great was the passive aggressiveness when he talked about, you could tell he was talking about someone he didn't want.
Yes.
Well, Lou, thought this guy was a guy we could use,
Well, that was pretty clear. Well, remember when they got Muzzin?
I always used to use the term
they got Muzzin.
They love the skating on this guy, so they brought him in. And that means that he hates the way the guy skated.
He hates it.
When they brought in Muzzin, it was like, that's what we got. It's like, even though Muzzin turned out to be great.
Yeah, really good for
him. But he was left shot, and they needed a right shot. He was big on that left back.
And that was a Dubas trade.
Yeah, of course.
That was Kyle.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Yeah.
Mike Babcock was one of the all-time great grin screwers of all time. Like, he would look at somebody and smile and be like, how you doing? Like, he would just grin screw the pants off of people, man.
Yeah.
He was like, other than Colin Montgomery, I think Mike Babcock's number 2 all time on the list.
Yeah, Monty's in the clubhouse with a
He
pretty
would joke with
substantial lead.
Masters, "Hey, Masters, nice shoes. Where'd you get the shoe?" And it would just be like, you don't care anything about that dude's shoes, man.
No. Yeah, whenever the cameras are on, the mics are around.
Yeah.
It's a science. It is a science. But anyway, thanks to Bruce. We appreciate him doing that. And we got Darren Dreger coming up. Dreg's on the trade deadline, which is rapidly approaching. More on the Leaf loss last night. Bunch of games in the NHL today. We're tracking what's going on again in terms of free agency in baseball. Jays are connected to Pete Alonso and Max Scherzer. All right, we're tracking it closely.
Dude, nothing reeks of like, we got to get something done. Pete Alonso's great hitter, hits for power, hits dingers, but nothing reeks of desperation than those two guys. Does it not?
Well, Scherzer's, he will fall in line with a long, long history of Joe Thorntons and Frank Thomases and Akeem Olajuwons, and there's been a long list of those guys. Patrick Marleau, and
he's 40.
Yeah, Scherzer's 40, and he couldn't pitch last year.
Yeah,
really down the stretch, he couldn't pitch even the year before when he was in Texas. Remember, and they ended up winning the World Series, but
you're right. Great name, great career.
Hall of Famer,
all-timer.
Yeah, and bulldog, like a guy that he brings a great attitude. I'm compelled by the idea of Scherzer. This is where there's no cap, bring him in. But if your concern is you don't have enough depth in the rotation, and you're bringing in a guy that isn't giving you 30 starts, it just seems impossible to believe that. Then what's your plan after that? Like when Scherzer goes on the IL and it's coming, who's going to pitch for him? I'm not sure they have that answer yet. That said, he hasn't been signed yet, so we're speaking in hypotheticals. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, so the NFL playoffs will continue this weekend. Al's brother and I can't say we're on the same page yet because we haven't quite connected yet on our plan for the picks, which will take place tomorrow.
Why not?
Well, tonight's our big meeting night. We get together on a Thursday night. We go over things.
Well, what's said? Like, who takes leadership role in the meeting?
Generally, I ask Al's brother, where do you lean? Like, do you have any leans one way or the other? Any inclination on which game you feel better about picking? And then from there, I will respond on whether or not I would agree with that, and then we'll dive into where we're at.
Because you get to pick the game.
We get to pick which game we play.
Have you ever asked him about a lean or a feeling, you bought into it and went with it, and it completely stunk?
Yes. Absolutely. But on the flip side, there have also been times where I've been like, I'm not seeing that, man. Okay. And it worked, right? To be fair to Al's brother, right? And generally we talk it out and we come to some sort of an agreement. Like last week, he was adamant Washington's the play.
Okay.
Adamant. And I was like, are you sure, man? I don't know. Okay. And I was adamant the Bills were going to win. And he was like, okay, I'm good with that. So we kind of met in the middle. There's no meeting in the middle this time, though. You got to pick one game. One game. And every incredible playoff moment on TSN is powered by Bud Light, a refreshing taste that's easy to enjoy. Tune in game day for pulse-pounding action. You see, like in the build-up towards these games, there's been so much, directed towards Mahomes versus Allen, which is totally justified. And you look at Mahomes in his playoff record, it is astonishing. He's 16-3 lifetime. Like, it's one of those things that I guess I get through the playoffs every year, get to February, then I shut it off, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And I lose sight of how much this guy's won.
Dude, it's pretty crazy. This guy could have 2, maybe 3 more Super Bowls.
Yes, that's
to his collection. Like,
absolutely, man. Like he lost to Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Lost to Brady in the AFC Championship game. That was in 19 when he was a kid, when he was really young. Lost to Burrow in the championship game. Now, Burrow ended up losing to the Rams. The Bengals did. But, like, this guy makes it to the AFC championship game every single year.
Yeah.
Like, every year his season begins this weekend, effectively. He has a two-game season. Everything else before it just is preparation for the AFC championship game. Like, it's just remarkable how good he is and how good the Chiefs have been.
Probably in his mental prep, like his preseason training. It's like, I have to go this far. That this is my season.
Right.
Where other guys will be like, could be home, no playoffs this year. This guy's like, I play until February.
Exactly. Like, never once has that guy been on Expedia looking
Never.
at maybe we go here on January 10th. Never, ever, ever. Crazy.
And doesn't it feel like, I don't know, to me, it feels like every year people make the same mistake with the Chiefs. They look at the regular season numbers and they sort of weigh the regular season numbers and they go, well, they're not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahomes isn't that good. The numbers aren't that overwhelming. And so last year, they went through the playoffs as underdogs, right? Like in multiple games.
Right. Now on the road more last year. But
yeah, and this year there's a lot of doubters. And I understand why. The Bills are a great team and Josh Allen's an incredible talent. But I don't know, man. It feels like, don't want to get fooled again by the same old storyline of the Chiefs aren't that good because they seem to bring it when it counts.
Well, it's the offense right now. They're like, they just don't put up points or they're not like this threat, but they find a way to win every game by whatever margin it takes.
Right.
And that's the Patriot way. That also, I think, is a part of it, is that we were so fatigued by the Patriots doing it for 20 years. Now the Chiefs are there was no breathing room.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing. Like there was no breathing room. It just went from Brady and the Pats doing it every year to, I guess, Brady and the Bucks for a year. Thank you, Tom. Now he stepped aside. And now ever since then, Mahomes and the Chiefs, and it's just simply fatigue. And we did it countless times with the Pats. Nah, this isn't it. Nah, this is the year. Brady can't do it again. And he just kept doing it. Yeah. And the Pats kept doing it. And in large part because they are so technically sound. Like they are so good in big moments. And they keep their cool, and they execute, and they don't go offside. They don't take a penalty. They don't do something stupid.
Don't turn it over.
They don't turn it over, and it just puts them in a position where they can win all the time. And
well, discipline is a major factor. Like someone posted a tweet today about Kansas City's discipline. Like they've taken numerous less penalties than their opposition through all of this. Like they don't kill them. They don't hurt themselves.
Right, exactly.
And I bet you that was Belichick's message. I bet you that's Andy Reid's message, where it's like, I have zero time for people that don't pay attention to assignments or lack of discipline. You just won't play here.
Exactly. And obviously the numbers, they do look staggering. That come playoff time, the Chiefs don't get flagged as much as the other team. And I think there's something to that. I think you can put a flag or two per game on tie went to Mahomes or tie went to the Chiefs or whatever. But the rest of it is that they do it better than everyone else. And everyone else is jealous and everyone hates on it and everyone gets pissed off. They're just better, and they have been better. And I heard Dave Naylor, issuing the stat today that ever since that game where the two of them played, the Bills and Chiefs played in November, it was Grey Cup Sunday. He was on with the Tapman earlier today. He said since that game, the Bills have turned the ball over once. The Chiefs have not turned it over at all.
Yeah.
So, in other words, the Chiefs, coming off a loss, they said, all right, it's time to snap out of this, boys. Like, now, Week 18 is a little bit deceptive because that didn't even count in Denver. It was just a nothing game. But every other game they've played, including tough teams they've played down the stretch. They played against Pittsburgh and Seattle, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. They played a bunch of really good teams this year when they needed wins to hold on to that top seed, and they executed properly.
Yeah.
And mentally, they're just stronger than everybody else. And
well, who wins the turnover battle? It's kind of that's what the NFL's become, right? Like it feels like I think it's 7-0. Teams are 7-0 if you win the turnover battle. In these playoffs, I think it's 22-1 in the last 23 playoff games. Teams that won the turnover battle, if indeed somebody won it, they won the game. So and look at Lamar last week. Like if the Ravens don't, if Lamar doesn't make that fumble, and I guess the drop ball's not a turnover, but it's it's close.
Yeah. And he threw an interception.
He threw an interception too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like a fumble and an interception, that's the difference in the game.
And Andrews with the fumble, man. Like the Bills won 3-0 in turnovers. And they won the game. It doesn't matter if you win by 20 or if you win by 2, you win. And FanDuel, I saw they've got odds up in terms of what the most likely Super Bowl is, and to no one's surprise, plus 140 is Chiefs versus Eagles, plus 180 is Bills versus Eagles. Plus 595 is Bills versus Commanders, and that's what I want. I want fresh. I want something new, and I want the idea of Allen and the Bills in a Super Bowl up against a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels.
Well, I don't understand the idea of. I always liked the run of Golden State, Cleveland in the finals. I like New England. I love the idea of the dynasty and what you need something fresh.
Yes, I do. I do. I want
Why?
fresh because I don't want to watch Mahomes every single year in the Super Bowl. That's the truth.
Dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's
man. That's
honest and
greatness.
you
didn't enjoy Michael Jordan 2 3-peats in a row.
He doesn't stop being great if he doesn't go to the Super Bowl every year. He's not like.
What is it like? It's almost like it would ruin your Super Bowl week if it was Mahomes and the Chiefs.
It would.
Pressers.
It's too repetitive.
Come on.
It's too repetitive. It's the same thing. It was the same thing with the Pats, dude. It was just, here we go, Bill Belichick media day giving nothing. Oh, there's Gronk being a wild and wacky guy.
Dude, you sound like a whiny
What are you gonna
Packers
say? What was
fan.
that? Oh, wait a minute. You're just about to say something very, very different.
No, a whiny Packers fan is what you sound like.
That's
like
fine. Listen, the Packers
just
have won multiple Super Bowls in my life. They go to the playoffs every year. Like the Packers, I get what you're saying. The Packers are not involved in this. I'm okay with Eagles or Commanders. Let me be clear on that. I prefer Commanders, but if the Eagles are there, that's fine. I just don't want to see the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl every single year.
Yeah.
Call me a hater.
You are a hater because you always said it when New England was stinking. You're like, you know what, New England, you deserve this.
Absolutely, that Boston deserves it. Why does Boston deserve winning all the time? The Celtics just won. I think the Bruins are starting to fade quick.
Big time.
I support that. The Sox have had their struggles the last couple of years.
Dude, that Boston, that city, the last 30 years,
exactly.
That's been disgusting. The amount of parades that they've had.
Oh, it's crazy.
Of course, it's jealousy. I'm not running from that.
It is.
It's
just don't be a hater and don't be
jealousy.
jealous. I think it's a great athlete in his prime, a superstar, a legend.
So,
I want to see him win more.
Where does it stop for you? How many does Mahomes get in a row before you say, okay, check, please, I'd like to see someone else play?
Dude, you know what? Every Sunday when the guy with the red shirt walked on the first tee, I'm like, there he is. I love this. Same thing with Mahomes.
Okay.
Same thing with Brady. It never ends for me. I always want to see it.
All right. I appreciate that.
You know why? Because they're better than everyone else. Why wouldn't you want to watch someone who's better than everyone else?
And that's valid. And let's be clear. Obviously, we have no power in this. He's going to go out there and play. And would I be
so
surprised
don't
if
be
he
a whiny.
wins?
You're like a whiny Packers fan.
You're asking me who do I want to see win. I'm telling you I want the Bills to win. I'd like to see Josh Allen and the Bills in the Super Bowl.
You know what? I would
cut.
like that too, but for a different reason. It would be great for the Buffalo market, not because I don't want to see Mahomes.
Well, it's a combination of both for me.
Yeah, it would be.
I
great
want to
for the
see it for Buffalo, but also check, please, on Mahomes.
Look, the one thing, Hayes, though, you got to admit, though, like when you talk about how we talk about sports nowadays, a lot of times we don't compare players to their peers. We compare them to the all-time greats, right?
Yes.
Like who's the GOAT conversation dominates sports talk. And I think you made a point at the beginning of the playoffs that I thought was salient, which was, Patrick Mahomes can gain on Brady here. Not because he's going to get, if he can win, obviously he'd get closer to 7, but he's got a long way to go to 7. But because he can get that 3 in a row,
yes,
a three-peat that Brady never achieved, and to tick off something that significant that Brady never achieved, that's a compelling argument.
Very compelling.
Feschuk,
very
why
accurate.
does that GOAT like? I cannot believe the amount. I mean, we've had it on our show. But the GOAT combo with Mahomes and Brady, and in the States, mostly on Get Up or First Up or whatever those shows are on ESPN, there's a Jordan, Kobe, LeBron GOAT combo daily. Yeah. And I'm just like, why does this keep happening? They're obsessed with it. And I don't know who's pushing the narrative.
And nothing changed. Like, I get it with Mahomes because he's in the midst of it right now. LeBron's not. It's over for LeBron. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no adding to his legacy.
Yeah, he's not going to do anything from now until his last game to further his argument in the GOAT conversation.
Right. Like, it's not happening. Michael Jordan's had his career. His resume's in front of us.
And let me just chip in my 2 cents. I agree with Charles Barkley. There'll never be another guy like Michael Jordan. I just don't think there ever will be. And he just stands alone. Anyway.
I agree. Look at you chiming in on that debate.
I had to chime in. But it's every day. I'm like, aren't they sick of this GOAT combo?
Well, you like it, though. You just
No, I don't.
I
honestly, I'm like, again today.
Well, the next step of GOAT chat will be Mahomes, like, greatest pro athlete ever. That'll be the next one.
No, it's already started. They already started down there where they're like, if this guy three-peats, it's not even a question. He's the GOAT. I'm like, Brady had 7 rings, man.
But I'm saying what will happen is he'll leapfrog out of the NFL ring, and he'll be in with Jordan next.
Right.
Is
Jordan,
Mahomes greater than Jordan?
Gretzky, Tiger.
Gretzky, that's what's coming next.
Yeah.
Like, because there's layers
You think
to
if
this,
he
man.
wins the Super Bowl, it's forget about Brady. It's Jordan Mahomes next?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
Oh,
That's
God,
the
that would
next-
be so painful.
I guarantee you, the day after the Super Bowl, if he wins on Sunday and then wins the Super Bowl, there will be a discussion.
Muhammad
Is
Ali,
Mahomes the
Jordan.
greatest pro athlete of all time? That's coming.
Yeah.
And it will include a conversation with Brady, because you can make that argument. You can make the argument Brady's the great. He's got more rings than Jordan. Mm-hmm. Jordan will, of course, be in it. A little bit different with individual players. I don't know if Tiger's going to get in there because it's just a different sport, different dynamic.
Yeah.
But if we're talking team sports, it'll be Mahomes, Jordan,
Gretzky.
Tom Brady, Gretzky, I don't know, Babe Ruth, whatever. Like that. That's what it's going to happen. He's going to leapfrog out of the NFL, discussion, and it's going to be about everything.
Things, right? The 3P puts you in the conversation with Jordan. Jordan did the 3P twice.
Yes, he did.
So I do think there's something. It's kind of intriguing. It's something. It's fun.
Oh,
to
I
talk
think
about.
I think it's significant for
Yeah.
that discussion with Tom Brady. Like, Brady owns it, and you're chasing Brady, and that's compelling. That's great. It's a great storyline, and I do think it would check off a significant box, something that Brady's never done. That's why I think there's pressure on Mahomes to capitalize on the fact that he is here. He's 2 wins away from another one. Who's to say next year you get hurt, then you're out? That's what happened to Brady.
Kelsey's not going to be there forever.
Kelsey's not going to be there forever. Andy Reid could retire. He's not a young guy. And then all of a sudden you're chasing, it's a different story in the future. Okay, we've got Darren Dreger coming up. My chat with Jesse Marsh as well, the head coach of the men's national team. World Cup just over 500 days away. And I've got my pressure list, the 7 Canadian captains, the most pressured to show up and play well between now and the end of the regular season. All right, not in the playoffs, for the rest of the regular season. We'll get to that as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we sent Al's brother out into the city with a pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. This is the 4th and final clue. I think we know where he is. I think we do. I'm hopeful we'll definitely know where he is after the 4th and final clue of the week. Let's hear from Al's brother.
Hey, OD fans, happy Thursday to you. It's time for your final clue of the week to get you one step closer to those Leafs and Wild tickets on January 29th. Your final clue. I've got so much to do here. There's escape rooms, high tea, but the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get me a nice piece of steak.
Nice. I don't think of this place as a steakhouse, necessarily. I'm sure there's a very nice restaurant there. I know where he is now. The escape room. That's what I referenced earlier in the week. I have been to this escape room. It's very well done. Very well done.
Okay.
Very good
Isn't
stuff.
there a steakhouse called like Blue Bloods or something in it? Or
I
don't know where this guy is.
Yeah,
what the hell are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure we know where he is, right? He's at Casa Loma, I believe. I think he's at Casa Loma. I don't recall a steakhouse being there.
I've lived down the street from it for many years. I didn't know there was steakhouse.
I don't remember.
Dude, maybe this guy knows of underground steakhouses.
I know. Like, what's going on with Al's brother and these steaks, man? Like, is he is he a steak connoisseur within the city?
I think he is.
Listen, that's not bad. If you're going to be a connoisseur of something, I think knowing a good steak is actually something that has a lot of value to it.
Al's brother has, what are those places called where you'd like knock twice and then there's like a secret bar?
Speakeasy?
Yeah, speakeasy.
Al's brother has speakeasy restaurants that are, if you just double knock and then slide a $5 bill under the door, a giant pizza comes to the door, and it's speakeasy of foods.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would be him down Spadina at like 4:30 in the morning.
That's right.
Right? Like that was always. I love. Everyone knew, go to Spadina. There's places after hours.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's down there. You're like, don't you think everyone else knows about this too? Like,
Yeah, well, that was the thing. You order the cold tea.
That was right.
And they give you a beer.
yeah. Let me get a cold tea.
That was
wink,
the
wink.
code word.
Yeah, Al's
Get a cold
brother.
tea.
Give me a cold steak. Wink, wink. All right, when you hear the cue to call tomorrow, the first caller through with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs play the Wild next Wednesday night. Buy Now's Brothers brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. All right, I'll fly through my list to start the next hour. Then Darren Dreger will join us. Sure, he would want to respond to this list. We'll get his take on the Leaf win last night, or Leaf loss last night. Leafs in Ottawa on Saturday. Ottawa in Boston tonight.
Can't wait to watch that, too. I'll be going
That's a
back
good
and
one.
back and forth, Habs, Ottawa, just
Yes.
to see what's cooking.
Habs, Detroit, Ottawa in Boston, and then Edmonton, Vancouver tonight. There's a lot of good Canadian content.
Yeah.
Final hour coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050, soon to be up on TSN 2.